Hello everyone, welcome back to part 4 on day 2 of the COVID-19 inquiry. We've got Boris coming up for his eighth section of grilling. Yes, his final innings. I'm sure they'll probably be quite mean to him, or they'll long the fucking questions out. He will probably long his answers out as much as possible to waste as much time as he possibly can before the end of the day at 4:30. So they should be back any second. She said 10 minutes, didn't she? So she's popped to the loo again. There's a queue at the ladies. Why is there always a queue at the ladies? Yeah? What is it with the design of places that allows queues for the ladies all the time? Saying that they take fucking ages in the bathroom, don't they? God, do take ages in the bathroom. Like, I take ages in the bathroom but fucking, I take ages in the bathroom. I take ages in the toilet. All you gotta do is go and have a wee, come out, wash your hands, fucking sort yourself out, innit? Oh no, you gotta do fucking about with all that stuff, but Jesus Christ, good, don't take that fucking long, does it? Christ. Anyway, here we are, live and direct from the UK. I'm Dodgy Git. This is Dodgy Git Show 116. Numbers are creeping up. See, it's this doing things like this all day. It's a fucking long old fucking task, I tell you. Yeah, but it's, I'm here for you guys. Yeah, you guys out there, fucking La La Land or wherever you fucking are. Yeah, La La Land on the bog. Yeah, sat in front of your TV set, waiting for Boris here to get his fucking. Yeah, he'll leave feeling like Gandalf's sleeve, won't he, eh? Should we flip you over so you know where you're going? What one is that? Yes, it is that one. So if I do that. Yeah, see, I do that instead of that. That's okay. No, now what happens? No, so I do that, then I do that. Yeah, I'm better off doing that. Yeah. So I'm playing with, you got this transition section on the software, and you can duplicate the scene or duplicate the source, and it does slightly different things, but it rotates in a different manner. Yeah, we're live, we're up to date, we got the sound on. We're just waiting for Her Honour to open the final proceedings of what the fuck Boris and his chums were doing. Core UK decision making and policy governance. Govern, yeah, a governor. Let's talk about an engine, a governor. What does it do? It controls the mixture of this and that, doesn't it? It governs it. Yeah, it's governing it. Core UK decision making. Core UK. There are companies that have fucking better fucking procedural manuals written than this fucking bunch of what's. Eton lads, they from the best fucking schools in the country. I think what needs to occur is a bit of a teacher swap. All those teachers in private school need to go into high-end industry and understand fundamentals of how it works. Yeah? And the fucking teachers need to either go to the fucking... Oh, here we go, everyone. Welcome back. Dodgy Git Show 116. The final part. Boris is going to get a grilling. Where should we go on the screen? Get up there, down here, around there. Today. Let's go bottom right.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Leslie Thomas, and I'm representing FEMHO, the Federation of Ethnic Minority Healthcare Organisations.
Right, so you're to do with ethnic minority organisations, okay, pal?
I want to see what we can agree on. Can we agree?
You want to agree?
that
So
it's
the other woman
important to
wanted
acknowledge
yes,
their
the
collective
person before that
sacrifice
wanted
and
no, and
dedication
now
of
he wants
healthcare
him to
workers,
agree with him.
especially those from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Can we agree on that?
Why
I
especially?
certainly think it's crucial to acknowledge the sacrifice of healthcare workers in the UK everywhere.
Thank you.
Everywhere,
Thank you.
whoever they are.
And we know that they tirelessly put their lives on the line during the pandemic. You remember, don't you, the nationwide applause every Thursday at 8 p.m. Jess, do you remember that?
I remember some irrational behaviour about nurses and stuff.
Indeed, you yourself owe them a debt in relation to when you were hospitalised and ill.
I certainly do. And
I'd say that. Fair dues. But that's their job. They're only doing their job, right?
Particularly, sadly,
you want to play that card? Only doing their job. They wouldn't be there. They weren't being paid for it. They do it for free.
It's in this context that FEMHO seeks insights into various aspects and understands the challenges faced by ethnic minority healthcare workers and communities during
any more than anyone else.
Precedented time. Now, let me start.
I don't like
I've got a
questions
handful of
like
topics.
this.
Let me start with my first topic.
They're right skimming on the edge of being fucking.
Mr.
Let's
Johnson,
turn it the other way round and see how it works.
Scientific advisor Sir Patrick Vallance, that disparate health outcomes based on vulnerabilities were, quote, entirely foreseeable, and the acknowledgement that pandemics exacerbate existing inequalities rather than creating them.
Why is it?
Focus on the period leading up to the first lockdown in March 2020. During those critical days, why didn't your government put any measures in place in anticipation to mitigate the potential harsher effects of the pandemic?
Because you didn't want to be seen as racist.
Minority groups. Can you help me with that, please?
Because if we fucking did that, you'd say we're racist.
I think that
wouldn't you?
We recognise that.
Why are you giving us all that? Why are you treating us differently?
Said was going to be brutal for the whole country, but I think that one of the things that I'd been told from the beginning was that if you remember in the conversations that we'd had about the downsides of lockdown, is that they were likely to be felt particularly by those from lower income groups, ethnic minority backgrounds, who would typically, and it would be it's a generalisation, be more vulnerable.
Yes.
So at that particular stage, it was one of the reasons why we were so careful about the timeliness of the lockdowns that we've described.
But Mr. Johnson, just help me with this, because I may have missed this.
Are you trying to be
patronising?
patronising?
Bearing in mind that these, as you've just said, were anticipated in low-income groups, ethnic minorities. Tell me, what
it's just putting the divide in
measures that your government put in place to protect these groups?
What
was appropriate at the time
the disparate
for the situation that we were fucking faced with the given fucking data and knowledge we were fucking handed by so-called professionals such as yourself.
At that stage, no, and I think that's what
Thanks for the
question. About. But what we didn't at that stage know.
Thanks for the very good, valuable question.
The extent to which the virus itself would impact different groups differently.
Well,
and that was only ready to become apparent in the course of the weeks ahead.
Well, you say in the weeks ahead. Very early on, it became apparent the first 10 doctors who died were from ethnic minority backgrounds. The first 10 doctors were doctors of colour, Mr. Johnson. You knew that, right?
What do you mean colour? They were Chinese, weren't they?
Correct. And
sorry, can I just clarify? You knew that.
Well, let me say what I knew.
Is that true? Is he making it up? He just why do black people want to fuck? Why is he doing that?
Of the victims in the NHS staff, I think I may have got the figure wrong, but I think it's something like 60% in the first year were from ethnic minority backgrounds. I may be wrong about that, but it's something of that order. It was falling disproportionately on BAME staff.
Right, we could throw the one in there. That's because they weren't complying to lockdowns, right?
I was very worried about it, and I tried to find out why. Because
they were complying to lockdowns. Because they were running taxi cab companies all over the place, taking folks all over the shop and weren't doing as they were told. Right?
My question was aimed
at... Is that a racialist thing to say?
You did, what measures, protective measures did you put in place?
The foremost toxic people the country could have found.
But let me move on, because time is short.
The time isn't short, mate. Say what you need to say instead of wasting it asking bullshit questions about fucking division you want to create. Yeah, go and brush your hair. Fucking idiot.
But...
I've seen this twat before. He's fucking gobbed off at other people.
We needed to do
he's
more
like
to
the first
protect
fucking
NHS
year,
frontline
isn't he?
staff.
He's like a tick boxer. I need to tick the boxes and then I get through and then they give me another few grand every month.
My second topic. In your witness statement,
your second topic? What is it? A fucking history fucking documentary? Fucking hell.
Related to disparities in health outcomes.
What disparities you want to throw in there now then, pal?
You state this at paragraph 46.
Do I?
Now,
wow,
considering this acknowledgement, what were the specific factors or considerations that contributed to this underestimation in the context of disparities in health outcomes, particularly those based on ethnicity?
I think that...
Well, who fucking knows? And what's ethnicity got to do with it anyway?
Looking at the data...
If you specifically want to know, the data's probably available for you to go and look at instead of patronising about somebody who can't fucking have it to hand, right?
And the question, bluntly, was whether there was whether there were medical reasons or whether there were, as it were, occupational reasons for the greater suffering. And
well put, Boris.
I think it took us a while to
realise,
to try to get to the answer. I mean, we tried to get the answer quite quickly,
which was,
but
a great deal of work
was done on that subject. The answer is, as I'm sure you of course know, is that it appears that there isn't any medical grounds. What it I'm afraid tragically was fantastic NHS staff from ethnic minority backgrounds in the front line.
Oh, that's what it was. There we go. See?
To the virus.
Well, it was more. Sorry, forgive me, Mr.
That's what it seems to me to be.
Well, forgive me, Mr. Johnson. It's more than that.
Okay, what is it then?
We had your.
Okay, come on then. Come out with a list.
Health Secretary.
Come out with a list of fucking occupations.
I believe last Friday.
Right,
he agreed with me, and I'm sure you will agree with me.
Oh, well, as long as we all want to polish each other's knob, we can all agree, can't we?
Disproportionate impact on the black, Asian and minority ethnic communities.
Oh, what about the fucking... Oh, no, you're missing other people out, man. What about the fucking Polynesian fucking community, man? Fucking hell, he's a fucking divider, mate. Don't listen to a word that fucking division creator wants to fucking say.
You are unaware of the report done by
bullshit.
England
and he's a representative of that community.
Where it was talking about
he's fucking pure toxic.
Completely unaware of that as Prime Minister?
He's toxic.
I haven't.
Your man's toxic, look.
Seen that report.
All on his elbow, fucking claiming that Boris is a racist after he's brought fucking black, white, ethnic this and that up in every one of his questions. Yeah? Toxic. Yeah, go on, you move on, boy.
Mr. Johnson, the June 2020 Public Health England report has been cited as a pivotal moment in the understanding and addressing the disparities and risks and outcomes.
By who?
Relating to the COVID pandemic.
By who? By you? Because that's what you chose to fucking read?
Substantive opportunity for engagement on this crucial issue?
So on what? Which issue?
Yeah.
I'll repeat the question.
Yeah, well, no, just fucking say what issue it is, you pillar.
Disparities and
Can't
risks
speak fucking English.
And outcomes related to the COVID-19
disparities in
virus.
risks and outcomes.
Well,
what disparities? In ethnic
we
minorities?
did
Well,
was
of
to try
course
to
it
make
was
sure
fucking
everybody
talked
had
about.
the best possible
You fucking stupid.
protection,
Yeah, I'll say
and
you are. That's why I ask questions like that. You're representative
we
for all
could
them people, and
to
you
stop
wasted your
infection
time asking that
of
shite.
those particularly black, Asian, minority ethnic
Toxic
groups that were
division creator.
in the front line of the
I
fight
wouldn't pay a fucking inside-out
COVID.
old shirt
And
for.
sometimes, tragically, we didn't have PPE that was good enough, but we made a huge effort to equip our country with what was necessary.
Sometimes you didn't have PPE. There was an issue at times, was there not, in relation to
it's got a lackadaisical approach of what is it? Africans within the delivery environment in a contract world, yeah?
That wasn't
purposely
escalated
turned down.
to me. I was concerned that everybody should have the
certain
best
ethnic
protection.
minorities are purposely turned down because they're demographically seen by the recruitment agencies as either a verbal, an attendance, or a general disturbance problem. So as soon as they walk in the door, judge them straight away, don't they, these recruitment agencies, and go, nah, fuck, ain't gonna work, mate.
Protection, above all, by being less overworked. And one of the things that the pandemic was a terrible time, but one of the things that we
generalising,
was not only to
we not fucking generalise,
big program of hospital building, but recruiting 50,000 more nurses. And I think we're well on the way to, well, the subsequent government is well on the way to achieving that now. And if you're a nurse or a frontline worker, then clearly one of the best ways to mitigate the risk that you face and the disproportionate risk that you face as a black, Asian, minority ethnic frontline care worker is having an extra pair of hands to help you. And that was one of the key objectives of the program. And it's a very large program. There are plenty of other things that the NHS now has, I believe, or certainly did when I was Prime Minister, more people in it than it's ever had in
Mr. Johnson,
forgive me.
Thank you.
They have limited time, Mr. Johnson.
So I'm not trying to talk
I'm
you
sure
out.
you're not trying to talk me down the clock.
I wouldn't dream of that.
You wouldn't dream of that, would you, Mr. Johnson?
I wouldn't.
No. Right.
Don't patronise me, you fucking little fucking...
Given the first indications of starkly disproportionate rates of infection and mortality in ethnic minority communities, which
why don't
began
you
to
sit the
emerge
fuck
in late
down?
March,
Yeah, stop waving your hands around, you pillar.
Can we agree on this?
Maybe wash your fucking
Can
nails,
we agree
eh?
that there were earlier opportunities
You reckon he's vain?
more substantial engagement?
Not a vain fucking lawyer, yeah?
I don't know what you mean.
Solicitor.
Well,
What's his name?
Let me be blunt. Your government could have done a lot more, a lot earlier.
When? About what?
We did.
Nah, don't think so, pal.
Get all our staff the
Equipment
equipment that
you tried doing better than what was fucking dealt out by
Johnson,
fucking antagonistic, fucking manipulative fuckwits like yourself and the fucking 3 or 4 previous questioners. You try working with a fucking room full of you lot. You lot wouldn't even fucking agree with yourselves. You put your fucking 4 questioners in the same room, Boris would be the only one that came out without fucking throwing something.
Shut up. At paragraph 656 of your
yeah,
witness
please
statement,
do
you
shut
say,
up.
Quote,
why don't you fuck off as well, you fucking
with,
pillar?
Did not consider
Yeah,
any
racist.
Impact
He's
assessments
fucking
when
calling
making
fucking, it's the only
decisions
fucking
about
reason
imposing,
he's
easing,
holding the
or
fucking
making
role he
exceptions
is.
to NPRs.
Yeah? A group,
But
what is
that's
he,
not
the
to
head
say
of a
did not
group
receive and
of
consider many
people that
documents
fucking,
containing
what,
details of the
fucking
effects
moan
of
about the
lockdown
fact
across
fucking they're different. The geezer at the
society
back there, look, he's
or
fucking
equalities
ginger.
and distributional
Look, ginger
impacts,
bollocks
end
at
of
the
quote.
back, look. Fucking who else we got in there?
In the
Who else
absence
we
of
got
such
in there? Oh my
assessments and
goodness, there's a
absent
blonde
impact
woman.
assessments,
Oh my goodness.
Can you shed light on
Fucking
the
Nora.
sources of intelligence or information that
Toxic as
informed you
fuck, mate. Toxic as
informed
fuck.
your
Just like the
understanding
previous fucking
of
3 or
of
4.
the
Yeah?
disproportionate impact of
Put there
NPIs
to
on
be
ethnic minority
manipulative,
groups?
antagonistic,
What were the
argumentative,
sources of your
extremist
there was
individuals.
data that I can't tell you exactly the provenance, but there was data that suggested that I think when you come to lockdowns, people from the Bangladeshi community were 4 times more likely to be engaged in closed sectors. People from the Pakistani community were I think twice as likely
So
to be
which
engaged
community are you
in
quoting from your
sectors,
ethnically
from my
diverse,
own,
this, that and the other? Fucking
extensive,
what?
Work
Yeah?
as chairman
Is
of
that half the
Transport for
fucking
London,
world,
and
pal? As if you're
all the
from
work I
fucking
did
Honolulu. Did
as
you
mayor,
include them?
had taught me the massive disproportionate impact measures such as closures
Why do you want there to
of
be a
retail, hospitality, and
disproportionate
so on, are likely
impact?
to have on those very
Why do you
groups.
want to
So I
find
didn't, I
that
didn't
there
need,
is through the
You didn't
punting
need
of
the
the
intelligence.
narratives?
I knew that
You knew.
I knew I was getting data, but I also knew that these measures were likely to be disproportionate in that area.
Thank you, Mr.
Because the
Malay.
industries they're working is are
Last 30
disproportionately
seconds.
represented,
Under my
which
time.
we're
Thank
finding
you.
now,
Thank you, Mr.
right?
Thomas.
Like in Wales, where the
Mr.
job roles
Johnson.
are actually
Thank you, my lady.
advertised for ethnically
Mr.
diverse
Johnson,
only.
I ask a small number of questions on behalf
So,
of the long COVID groups.
Who's creating what, eh?
Matt
Pile of
Hancock
old
and Dominic
pony.
Cummings have said they were advised in early 2020 about the possibility of longer-term sequelae
Oh,
of
fuck that
COVID-19
bloke's
by
fucked
both
off.
Patrick Vallance and Chris Whitty.
Don't ever put him in
On the
here again.
17th of May 2020, you shared an article, we didn't go to it, about people reporting prolonged symptoms of COVID-19 in a WhatsApp group with them all. In short, did you also receive advice about long-term sequelae from Patrick Vallance and Chris Whitty at that time?
Hello.
Not as far as I can remember at that time.
All right.
I do remember repeatedly asking for advice,
God,
and
that toxic piece of
I think
shit's
that
gone.
I finally got a paper from memory in summer
It's
of
like the person
2021.
that pushed
Yes,
past
we'll come
you
to
in a
that.
bar and then complain that
You
you're
were
in
never
the wrong.
provided with scientific advice
Yeah,
doubting
wanker.
the existence of long COVID. Yet you've said that you were only persuaded that long COVID existed in June 2021. You've referred to that. When
I
Chris
didn't say that. I was only given scientific advice.
Yeah, see how they try to feed him shit, right?
Yes, I'm asking you questions
Well,
about
Boris.
when you were persuaded. You were only convinced by him, that's Chris Whitty, that long COVID
See,
was a
said
serious
so.
problem when, from July 2020, you had been receiving letters from patient advocates and members of Parliament asking for formal recognition of long COVID. In September 2020, Mr. Hancock reminded you about long COVID. In October 2020, the NHSE announced a 5-point plan for long COVID. And on the 13th of October 2020, Sir Patrick Vallance advised you about considering long COVID at a cabinet meeting. And he said, in evidence here, that he described long COVID to you and you were sceptical about it.
When was this?
13th of October 2020, Sir Patrick Vallance was. So I've given you a sequence of from July to October. Why wasn't this overwhelming body of advice and correspondence in 2020 sufficient to persuade you that long COVID was a serious problem at that time?
I don't want you to think. So, first of all, I don't want anybody to think that I didn't think that it could be a serious problem. What I wanted to know was the evidence. I wanted to understand what exactly the sequelae consisted in, and how I should explain it to people, what the symptoms exactly were, and what kind of a syndrome it really was. And I was having some difficulty getting a clear picture, and that was the reality.
So this is a question, it appears, in relation to formal advice, written advice. But the box grid of October 2020, and we didn't go to it, 251910, that you scored bollocks on, was referring to the first NIHR report into long COVID, a research paper
Boris, we
that had
love
already
you,
been
man.
published on long COVID by that time.
Bollocks.
It laid out symptomatology on long COVID. If you wanted advice, why didn't you simply ask for that report to be provided to you?
I did ask for the evidence, and I did ask for reports to be provided, and eventually one was provided. I think that I think there's a slight conceptual. First of all, I wish to again to recognise the hurt that those words must have caused to people suffering from long COVID, and the very real suffering that they endure. And but when I referred to Gulf War syndrome, I was making I think a reasonable question, and I'm sure you wouldn't say that everybody suffering from Gulf War syndrome is mistaken.
Mr. Johnson, I don't want to be developed about Gulf War syndrome. I just want to ask you, do you agree you never asked for the NIHR report to be provided to you?
I certainly asked for a report to be provided for me into long COVID, and it was eventually provided, but much later on.
Yes, so not that report. Do you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. In July 2021, the Cabinet Office planned a policy which accepted high prevalence of Covid-19. It noted that the strategy was to continue to live with COVID without restrictions. One risk was noted as high rates of long COVID. The autumn-winter plan of 2021-22, published in September 2021, emphasised building defences through pharmaceutical interventions, and for long COVID only acknowledged the need for treatment. There was no effective treatment for long COVID, as there were no pharmaceutical interventions to prevent its development, and you agree the best way to prevent long COVID is to prevent infection of COVID-19. Did the government choose to adopt a policy which you knew would result in a significant number of people, including young people, suffering from long COVID?
What we did was to try to fight COVID, to try to fight infection and mortality in people of all ages by stopping the spread of the disease. And
disease syndrome,
that by fighting COVID, A fortiori, you could fight long COVID.
Yes, but you understand in relation to the decisions in relation to COVID and long COVID, they have different symptomatology.
And that was precisely what I wanted to understand, and that was why I requested the report and the advice that I did.
That's why he keeps asking people that he's fucking employed by him to fucking do their bloody job, right?
Can somebody explain
and is that why that woman came up and said what she did on the TV set when she got busted with a mic on, a hot mic and cam on it? And she said, I'm the only one that's done anything. Nobody's done fuck all.
I want to move away from Gulf War with the greatest respect. A choice was taken to allow high rates of transmission,
we don't need to be
which brought more cases of long COVID, and you've said a number of times that messaging was incredibly important. Messaging, in the end, was the most important tool we had to deal with the virus. Why didn't you therefore communicate the risk of long COVID to the public so they could take measures to protect themselves?
Well, the way to protect yourself against long COVID is to avoid getting COVID.
That's not the simple. That's not. It doesn't follow, does it? They're not.
Well, doesn't it? You tell me.
Specific features for long COVID.
You tell me. I don't know. That's the thing. Literally, I don't fucking know.
But it has a different risk profile. Do you appreciate that?
Does it?
Well,
I don't know.
What
documents support that? Where? Oh my god.
To minimise the importance of what you're saying, but
must be on the certified health websites that must be adhered to at all times.
Long-term sequelae from COVID, to stop them getting COVID in the first.
Yes. Do you accept there's an indiscriminate
refer
risk
to official documentation only,
which is a different risk profile specific to long COVID?
Well, that was one of the things I was very interested to understand. I think that may very well be the case, but it is still also true logically that the best way to stop those individuals contracting COVID is to stop the spread of the disease, full stop.
Yeah. So can I take from that people do need to know about long COVID specifically? They can suffer from prolonged symptoms of COVID-19, and that nothing specifically is done about the risk of long COVID. Do you accept that?
Well, I don't accept that nothing was done about the risk of long COVID because the government did everything that we could to stop the spread of COVID.
Last question. Last topic. Yesterday, you said in your view, some people thought they may be suffering from long COVID, but there was in fact another cause.
See, a topic used to be a chocolate bar until people started
summarised in the October 2020 box return, addressed those very concerns that, in quotes, the lack of recognition of the pattern of symptoms by the public and by healthcare services meant people frequently felt their experiences were not believed, and this left many of feeling isolated and alone in coping with their disease.
And that's the same with Gulf War syndrome, by the way.
Yes, I haven't asked the question yet. It concluded, did the report, that more recognition and more support was needed. Having come to accept, as you have now, that long COVID is a debilitating and disabling illness, causing almost 2 million adults and children to suffer, do you now recognise that your prolonged disbelief in long COVID contributed to the delay in recognising long COVID, led to unwell people not being believed, and has meant decisions were taken on releasing NPIs without consideration of long COVID?
No, I don't think that. I think that if you look at what actually happened, from a very early stage, we start investing in research into long COVID, and I think 50 million followed by another 75 million, and into trying to establish the exact pathology of the illness.
But the decisions were taken on releasing NPIs without consideration of long COVID. Do you accept that?
No, I think that there were going to be risks involved in releasing the MPIs. They were going to be basically the risk that the disease would spread, and that was the thing we wanted to fight.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Metzer.
Can I just complete the question, please, my lady? It's the last question, I promise you. Do you accept that widespread transmission of the disease without public communications on the risk of long COVID and without other mitigation measures meant people could not take steps to protect themselves from long COVID? Do you accept that?
No, I think that people were given plenty of advice to protect themselves from COVID, and as soon as we began to understand what long COVID was and its risks, we also publicised the risks of long COVID as well.
Thank you, my lady.
Thank you, Mr. Metzer. Mr. Menon, you've moved. Trying to confuse me.
Oh, sorry, I'll move.
Thank you, my lady.
I'll adjust myself.
Mr. Johnson. I ask questions on behalf of a number of children's rights organisations.
Oh, yes, this guy again.
Can I start by seeing if we can agree on two matters,
which
I hope are uncontroversial?
Yes, no, I agree on things.
Firstly, in March 2020, when schools were closed for most children,
he's going to stand there.
You believe that schools should only close as a last resort if necessary to save lives and protect the NHS. Is that right?
I certainly believe that the closure of schools was a very, very damaging thing for kids, particularly, as I said earlier on, for kids on their income.
There he is, bored out of his fucking mind.
Secondly, the reason that you believe that schools, I suggest, should only close as a last resort was that you recognized at that time, when we went into lockdown in March 2020, that school closures would have a devastating, lasting, harmful impact on many children, particularly vulnerable children, in terms of their development, their socialization, their educational attainment, their life chances, their physical health, and their psychological well-being.
Yeah, okay, right, get on with it. What's your question?
We did recognise that.
Of course you recognise that. Are you stupid?
Can we also agree that the primary problem in March 2020 was not the fact that schools were closed for most children to save lives and protect the NHS? The problem was that prior to schools being closed, there was no proper plan, there was no clearly established framework, there was no guidance for schools on remote education, and no arrangements for delivering face-to-face education to vulnerable children under the new social distancing restrictions.
That's correct.
That was the problem, wasn't it, in March 2020?
Well, yeah, but nobody's...
I think that
of course.
That the difficulties we had in delivering education remotely, and the other things that you've mentioned certainly compounded the problem. But the basic problem, the prior problem, was that that kids were deprived of the vital education that they needed at a critical time in their development. They were deprived of the
of course, it's aware of all that shit. We all are.
They were unable to socialise. It was a terrible, terrible time, and the evidence is, as I'm sure you know, that this was felt most keenly by those on lower incomes, and they basically received about 30% less education than kids from wealthier backgrounds.
So we agree on impact. Can we also agree there was no proper plan?
I think it would be fair to say, from everything that the inquiry has heard so far, certainly from me, that this was a once-in-a-century event, and
this is a military problem. This should be military implemented.
For the length of time that
this is all fucking peacetime stuff. Instead of going running around all the time.
In your witness statement, Mr. Johnson, I don't ask for it to be put on the screen. The reference is page 107,
Instead of fucking all these beef boys.
You say
they got beef boys who get fat, don't they, when they leave the army? Get flabby and lazy.
In the summer of 2020, when the first lockdown was easing, putting it ahead, in your words, of the need to lift social and economic measures. Why then, this is the question, why then were hospitality and cultural venues, including pubs, bars, cafes, restaurants, hairdressers and beauty salons, allowed to reopen on the 4th of July 2020, dubbed Independence Day by some in government, but not schools?
I think that
because children's fucking spread shit around way more than fucking adults eating, right?
The reason was that two things, but I think we thought we would go through till the resumption
different representatives in government speaking to the education fucking people, and they're wanting to do one thing for reasons and risk management. But the other fucking guys, they came in, didn't they? And they said, oh yeah, instead of doing nothing, you could maybe open some of these. And they were the bankers.
You think schools are larger reservoirs of risk than pubs and restaurants and hairdressers and beauty salons?
Yes.
And non-essential retail, for that matter?
I think that we were thinking about how to
children breathe on each other, they sit next to each other, they get nits, just fucking look at each other, they get nits, don't they? The kids, they don't wash their hands, they don't fucking,
sensible given where we were in
fucking, all kinds of things. Kids spread fucking germs. That's why he was going on about chicken pox parties right back at the beginning, right?
But the reality is that, contrary to what you'd indicated earlier, schools were not the last to close and the first to reopen, were they? Because priority was given in your budget of risk to, amongst other things, pubs and hairdressers.
Yes, because it's to do with adults working.
As I say,
adults' availability to earn an hourly wage.
An unlocking which...
Or a fucking child's ability to go to school and fucking spread disease to grandma at home.
School holidays
that was the problem, wasn't it?
There were reasons for thinking that it might be sensible to resume school when school normally resumes.
There you go.
Rather than, for example, as an alternative, keep schools open into August because schools have been closed for so long beforehand.
I think we did look at that. I'm not sure that it was practically very easy to do.
Moving then, Mr. Johnson, from school closures to the social distancing restrictions, why did your government largely ignore calls from the Children's Commissioner for England, Anne Longfield, and numerous children's rights organisations to exempt children in England from the social distancing restrictions that became law on the 1st of June and the 14th of September?
Why did we ignore calls to exempt them from social distancing?
Yes.
I would have to look back at the discussion and forgive me, but I think it would.
What specific bit are you going on about?
My instinct is it would have been because we wanted to minimise the risk of transmission.
Well, let me just remind you of what the position was. 1st of June, outdoor gatherings of up to 6 people from more than one household became law.
Right.
4th of July, so-called Independence Day, all outdoor restrictions lifted, except in Leicester. 14th of September, when numbers began to rise again, the so-called Rule of 6 reintroduced at that stage.
Right.
So the position was that in England,
it was all over the shop.
But in Scotland and Wales,
weren't exempted.
Younger children were exempted from the social distancing
Well, ask
restrictions.
fucking Nicholas Sturgeon about that, because they wanted devolutionary shit, right?
Conversations we were having just now with the
The
council for the DAs, and I think in an ideal world we would be able to proceed as one epidemiological unit.
You create the fucking problem. It's a guy coming on again complaining about the problem that's been created by fucking.
We faced a really
self-division. It's self-fucking problem creating drama queen shit.
And this was one of the areas where the scientific
funny how this fucking country fucking functions, isn't it? It's absolutely full of fucking hours and hours of wasted fuckwittism.
Later on in 2020,
hours and hours of fucking people knocking one out over fucking what?
Addition to the
Jesus.
Mr. Johnson, I moved on from schools to the social distancing restrictions.
Yeah, but you're trying to muddle the things up, mate, and fucking tie the two things. So what? Yeah,
okay.
no, you're trying to convolute it. Stop. Yeah, go be really clear, mate. You there fucking going on about fucking Scotland, England, or schools?
In other words, children who can't go out from their homes independently were not exempt from the restrictions. They were not given, to use the government's language, at freedom and independence.
See the way you put that? They're not allowed to go out independently.
So I'm asking, why did England pursue a more draconian approach than Scotland and Wales as far as younger children is concerned?
Well, I think
very curious
I refer you to what I said just a moment ago. I think that we were.
Imagine telling a child you're not allowed to go out until you're 12, and then when you are 12, you're old enough for marriage, eh?
The UK. I'm
under
not certain in future whether
the British Shariah Court, eh?
And just to be fair to you on this, so you know,
see what we're playing.
The inquiry's not heard any scientific or medical evidence from either the CMO
children,
or
pal. Let's fucking defend children properly, shall we? It was very interesting in the way you worded that.
Dangerous.
Thanks for that one.
Was better, just so you understand the position. Now, opposition to the decision not to exempt younger children from the social distancing restrictions
people like you would have complained and said that they needed fucking freedom and this, that and the other. Oh, they should be in the park playing, or they should be able to go on the swing. How cruel you are not letting them go on the swing. That's what you would have said, so you're full of shit. Yeah, you're not there for any fucking positive fucking movement. You're a fucking pain in the arse.
Page
another one. Is this the fifth one in a row?
It would be appreciated.
Fifth one in a row.
I think you have it now. And if we could turn to the 11th of October, please, the entry at 15:46:59.
Yeah, go on.
This is a WhatsApp exchange between Matt Hancock and Helen Whately,
what have I got to do
was
with it?
Minister of State in the DHSC at the time.
What the fuck have I got to do with
and
it?
Helen Whately says this: wish we could loosen on children under 12 on rule of 6 for tier 1. And then sometime about an hour later she says it would make such a difference for families and there isn't a robust rationale for it. Now is a really good chance to show we have listened. Lots of MPs were pushing on this during last week's debates. And Matt Hancock replies, they don't want to go there on this. She asks, are we they? And then this from Matt Hancock, as in number 10, also on curfew, they don't want to shift an inch. In respect of that, first question, were you aware at this time
is Chris Whitty.
Mid-October, so this is about a month after Scotland and Wales have exempted children from the rule of 6.
Chris Whitty again.
Were you aware at that time that Helen Whately
I would call
lots
Chris
of
Whitty
MPs,
back.
to use her words,
And Matt Hancock, if he's replying to her like that, I'm not surprised she has the problem she did.
I will say how
I'm not surprised, and I said yesterday, didn't I?
In
yesterday's video, I said she'll be sat there behind her desk with a computer screen, and fucking Matt will be pissing her off. And that's exactly what's just come out there.
That was going on. At a time when, as everybody knows, and we've been discussing this extensively this morning, the R was going up, and we were about to announce the tiered system. So the 11th of October, we're literally days away from having to ask the country to go back into parts of the country to go back into lockdown, and we are. So the last thing to explain why it might have been difficult for us to signal any kind of relaxation at that stage, to suddenly to say that we were going to relax the rules on social distancing for kids, for young people, would have been a very, very peculiar signal to send out at the very moment when we were desperately trying to get the existing measures to work, and we were on the point of toughening them up. And so I think that probably answers your question.
So I think what you're saying is that Matt Hancock was right when he said to Helen Whately in this WhatsApp exchange that number 10 doesn't want to shift an inch. That he's right about that, isn't it?
I don't remember. To be frank, I don't remember a conversation about it, but I can see why we would have been reluctant at that stage, given what was going on in the pandemic.
Finally, Mr. Johnson, I hope again this is uncontentious. Taking a global view of the position, although children had fewer health risks from COVID than adults, particularly older and more vulnerable adults, do you agree that children suffered disproportionately from the government's non-pharmaceutical interventions to contain the virus, both in the short and the long term? Taking an overall view of the pandemic.
I absolutely do, and that's why we put a lot of money into CAMS, into children out mental health services. That's why the government decided to have a big.
Don't matter how much money you put into something, Boris, it's where it's spent, how it's spent, and by who it's spent on what, going where. Yeah?
And
it's fucking 12 grand for a hospital bed taking the piss, pal.
Yes, I do think that the educational detriment
you fucking
was a huge consideration.
Me,
the loss of life chances for young people.
Loss of life chances, fucking hell.
Put in the scales when you're making these appalling
scales.
Choices.
Fucking hell, we used to have a scales, man.
Kids were
priority
was
everybody's
got home from work.
As much as I'd like to challenge you on the nature of the government response, the inquiry has understandably decided that that is a matter to be properly explored in 2025 in a separate module. So I don't accept what you've just said, in particular in relation to the catch-up program, but I'm going to have to deal with that on another occasion. Do you understand?
Well, I think I've conceded that it wasn't as I wanted a totally massive.
You're keeping secrets, mate. That's what he's just said, isn't it? Oh, we're keeping secrets till later.
It was a big priority of mine.
I understand your answer.
You've put your marker down, Mr. Mennell.
I have.
I'm sure you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mennell. Mr. Friedman.
Mr. Johnson, I act for National Disabled People's Organisations.
Oh, hello.
They too want to ask you about your repeated comments in meetings and on WhatsApp messages about older people.
Indeed.
For example, that they're going to die anyway,
Which way round they got to
had a
put
good
Boris?
innings, and should accept their fate rather than destroying the economy. Now, please leave aside for a moment what was done by your government.
Hello.
And what you say you truly care about. And no doubt the chair will look at all that evidence. Our first question, in your choice of words to your government and advisers, were you not being shamefully ageist against those in later life and normalising their premature death?
Thank you very much. No.
Not exactly.
I was doing my best to reflect what was, I'm afraid, a debate that was very live. And live, I may say, with a great number of older people who would make these points to me.
They need
and I wanted to get the answers, and we've discussed earlier on today.
Boris. Oh, we'll have to shrink the downsides play of movie around here again. There we
the segmentation approach that wasn't really going to be enough, but people found that very counterintuitive. They didn't understand why segmentation wouldn't be enough, and you really had to explain it to them.
Mr. Freeman, can I just put a marker down? I did not give permission for you to ask the question shamefully ageist, just so that people understand. Could we please avoid language which I haven't approved, which could be considered emotive?
Absolutely, my lady.
Thank
you. Yes, I accept.
What?
And I apologise. It wasn't my lady's choice of words.
What I call a forensic flourish, Mr. Freeman. Thank you.
So be it, my lady. But let me nevertheless reflect on your answer just now and your answer to Mr.
No,
Keith
love,
this morning
you don't have the
these
right not to
various
be
comments
offended.
that I know you feel very sensitive about.
You approve all of the
I
fucking
just want to
English
paraphrase
language or
what we
fucking none
understood
at all.
to be your answer. As
Fuck's
the layperson in the room, I, as the Prime Minister,
The fuck kind of
who had to
judges
take
we
the
got?
ultimate decision
Oh, you
with
can only use
voicing
half
these
the
ideas
dictionary.
about older
Fuck off.
people
Contempt
to deal
of
with
court.
counter-arguments
Hello.
out there
Fuck
in
you.
the public domain.
Yeah, you fucking
But only
contempt
the elderly
yourself.
should be
You should
shielded.
hold yourself in contempt of
not
court.
only the elderly. Sorry.
Fuck's sake.
Yes.
Use half
No,
the
that is
dictionary.
so
Fuck
from the
off.
beginning,
You
we had a
literally, you
massive
don't have the
programme
right to
of shielding
not to be
for,
offended. It's a
the-
fucking.
for the vulnerable, as you know, and went
Yes.
from about 1.3.
We can be
1.5
civil
million
about
to
it.
ultimately
That
about
means that
2.5
you
million
have to not
people,
be not
some of whom were
not
shielding
civil,
for
right?
an incredibly long
Is that how
time.
many knots in it?
And
See
it
what
was
I
a
mean?
miserable, lonely business. Given all the detriments that people endured, the inability to get the medical health care that they might need,
Yeah, damn right. Hello.
all the downsides
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
Come on, Boris. Yeah, keep going with all them
It
fucking
was,
things. Yeah,
I think, reasonable
yeah.
to think about other approaches and whether the continued lockdowns were effective.
Yes, of course, Mr. Johnson.
But in the
Yeah,
end,
right. So what's
we had no alternative. And
Yes, of course, Mr. Johnson, but forgive me for interrupting you, but I could take you to these comments, however one puts them emotively or otherwise.
yeah?
Once we get into August and September, and these comments mostly made in October,
Right.
you've had those discussions about how a more dedicated form of segregation for the elderly in their households is not going to work, essentially because the virus will break out of the shielding system. And
Yeah, but pal, you're talking about shit fucking 6 months in. So what are you going on
how
about?
does your answer to counsel to the inquiry this morning and to me just now about you putting arguments for only older people being segregated in some form of super shielding?
Because you lot are creating divide.
Your repeated
Is
assertions
this the
that old
fucking?
people are going to die anyway,
is this
that they've
the-
had a good innings,
Oh
and we should
my
not
God.
sacrifice the economy because of
Yes,
that.
but people have departmentalised each other
What
or
I'm
other
trying
people
to,
prior to that point
to
of
put
fucking
to the
saying some words
the
about
scientific
it, which must have occurred prior.
is the
Oh,
I want to
people are
understand
so
first of all
achingly fucking
who is
erosively fucking corrosive. It's fucking horrible. Such
potential
assholes.
victims of COVID are.
Literally, these type of folks
particular
have
moment,
been
and-
on,
and
which is
as
why we've had
everybody
a
knows,
fucking problem.
It's people of all ages, and I've seen it for myself, right? Because I've seen
Yeah.
some figures. I think for
Fucking
the average,
everybody's been affected
median
by the
age
cold, yeah.
of COVID victims.
It is cold
I'm trying to
outside.
understand,
It's raining now as well.
what alternatives we have.
Exactly.
And
You had two
I'm-
options,
I'm
didn't you?
reflecting
Remember yesterday? He had
a
do
widespread
nothing.
view
He had do nothing or do
there
something,
must be
which
some
was the
twin
thing
track
that was
strategy. There must be
suggested
some,
by the so-called
way in
experts,
which we can somehow
which was Chris telling Matt, who was
avoid
telling
this
the other girl, who was doing a great job in
damage
trying
to
to come
the
up with
entire
fucking
economy
solutions and
and
suggestions
society
in a professional
whilst
manner
looking after
using
the
her
interests
hardware and software
of the
available
elderly.
to her.
And
Yeah? She's probably the only one that fucking should be
what
there.
I'm trying to get from
Run out of fucking
from
coffee,
the-
I'll be back in a ticker wicka wicka woo.
the scientists is, and from everybody in the room is, well, what is the answer to this? And the answer is, as everybody knows, that there is no alternative approach. If you let, there is no way of sequestering the elderly population or the vulnerable sufficiently, and they will die in tragically in great numbers when the R gets uncontrollable.
Well, let me then ask you about your knowledge and your words around the broader population of disabled people that were dying. Did you know then, as of autumn of 2020, that COVID posed risk to a wide range of disabled people of all ages, and in that I include people with learning disability, people with Down syndrome, and the like?
Yes, we certainly knew that people with a huge variety of syndromes were particularly vulnerable, and that's why we had a shielding scheme.
Well, that being the case, we do not find you repeatedly raising at this juncture with your government and your senior advisors in WhatsApps and notes and meetings about that problem, in a sense leading from the front with words and actions to let your government know in no uncertain terms that disabled people's lives are worth living. Why is that?
But actually, that's not true. That what we did was to try to stop the spread of the virus and to protect those who were shielding and vulnerable from a breakout.
Well, lastly, and standing back, my lady, if I may, and it does follow from what's been said. Public know, you know, that sometimes you use language, florid language, and one way to conclude about your use of language is that's just Boris Johnson being Boris Johnson. It's a matter for my lady, but is that the kind of conclusion you would want her to reach? Or would you rather her reach a conclusion that language of that florid kind of nature, even if said in jest, should not be used by a government official, and especially one who had the power that you enjoyed in autumn 2020?
All language should be used.
Well, the kind of language, whether I describe it emotively or not, that old people have had a good innings.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That they're going to die anyway.
No, freedom of speech says that you should be able to use every single possible, conceivable, theological fucking sentence in the whole fucking universe, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Trying to restrict the use of language and fucking what's deemed offensive or not. Fuck off. Yeah? Your painting's shit. Yeah? Your painting is wrong. Yeah? How about that? Your painting is wrong. Why is it wrong? I don't think my painting's wrong.
And there are words that are ascribed to me that I simply don't recognise.
How about that?
But the third thing is, insofar as it's obviously
under
true
command of the king,
that I was from time to time speaking bluntly and in an unpolished way about these issues, it was for two reasons. First of all, I wanted to as I say, to represent the layman, to get an answer that was intelligible. Number two, I wanted to
that's why we
everybody in the room to feel that they could also speak freely. Because I think when you're sitting in a room full of conversations conducted in learned or bureaucratic language about these complex phenomena, you do need people to feel that they have the space, without being embarrassed, to say things simply, even if taken out of context, they can be made to look unfeeling or uncaring. When people really aren't unfeeling or uncaring, they're trying to express ideas as simply and as concisely as they can.
You bring your sister, huh?
Miss Davis is over that way, Mr. Johnson.
Next time you bring your sister, huh? Yeah. Oh, hello, baby. Hello, baby. What are you doing later?
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can.
Johnson,
What
thank
you doing later?
I ask questions on behalf of Southall Black
I
Sisters
think you
and
dinner.
Solace Women's Aid, who, as you will know, are part of the violence
You want
against
to come
women
to breakfast?
and girls sector.
Yes.
You
And
come
so my two
breakfast with
topics
me,
are
huh?
on domestic
You
abuse,
come breakfast.
which is something
Yes,
that you
with me.
told us yesterday
Yes.
you were personally very alive to that issue.
Yes, did you get man on
And
the
you will
direct
know
from you?
that the regulations, the
Hello,
stay-at-home
darling.
regulations,
What are you doing?
contained a number of exemptions.
Miss
One of
Davis,
them was
here she
that you
is.
could leave because of risk of injury. And we've heard from Mr. Hancock
Should we
that
be
it's
nice to
obvious
Liz?
that was intended to
Let's be
include
nice
risk
to
of
Liz. Just be
domestic
nice,
abuse
man.
besides
Be
anything else.
kind.
Yes.
Be happy.
I want to ask you
Where have
about
I gone?
messaging.
Where have I
My
gone?
first
Where's
topic
my
is on
ugly mug?
messaging,
Where's my ugly mug?
which you've told us is not just an important part of an MPI, but actually an important MPI in itself.
MPI.
And the messages are your addresses to the nation when you announced lockdown.
Hello,
And there were
I like
5
your
in
eyes.
total. The
they're
23rd of
trying to
March, the
flick the
first
camera
lockdown,
around.
the 31st
Move
of
the
October when we say there's going to be
camera
the second
around the
lockdown, the 5th of November when the details of the second lockdown are announced, the 19th of December, which is Tier 4, and then the 4th of January 2021 when you announce the third lockdown. And in all those addresses, you emphasise quite rightly that people must stay at home throughout. And you also refer to some of the exemptions.
Funny
so
shit.
on the 23rd of March, you say people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes.
We're back in March again,
And those
okay.
4 purposes are shopping, exercise, medical need, travelling to and from work if that's absolutely
and then
necessary.
we all said
And you
what's
conclude
then we all
that part by
define
saying that's all.
exercise.
These are the only reasons.
So the kids wanted
you
to
should
go
leave your
outside and
home.
run around. So it fucks up
On
what
the
the other
other
kids have
occasions,
said, right?
31st of October, 5th of
See how it
November,
don't
and
work
19th
both
of
ways
December,
round,
you
does
give
it?
similar lists.
Yeah.
On the 31st of October, you do include the words escaping risk of injury or harm. But on none of those addresses throughout 2020 do you say that people can leave if
Risk
they're at
is
risk
part
of
of
domestic abuse. You
being
do
a
say
human
that
being.
on
We
the 4th of
risk
January
walking, don't we?
2021.
When
You
we
say
first
that
start to
explicitly,
walk, we
where you
take
say,
risk and we
or
fall
to
flat
escape
on our
domestic
fucking
abuse.
face. Yes, we do.
So why
Fail.
was domestic
First
abuse not
action
mentioned
in
earlier than January 2021?
Thank you. I think that you're making a very good point.
Because she was a bit delicate that day, and we thought if we mentioned it, she'd fucking throw that off pan at us.
To mention that issue explicitly.
Full of soapy
earlier.
water as well.
That didn't mean we were silent or inattentive to the problem.
See, we can do it as well, guys. See, you want to play that old fucking game.
In April, we set up the.
Oh, here we go. You play fucking merry-go-round to fucking bush again. Merry-go-round at Mulberry Bush. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Many went round at Mulberry
I'm going to stop because I will probably come on to that, and I'm interested in messaging for the moment.
Hello, please.
Would you say that the failure to mention it, which you've just acknowledged in hindsight, was an error, is compounded by that phrase of the 23rd of March?
Looking back,
saying
yes,
that's all, these are the only reasons
hindsight,
you
is that
should
like
leave your home?
spell-lings, like go fish, yeah? Again,
I hope that people would have understood that to report a criminal offence was also a reason to leave your home, but clearly it was something we should have made explicit.
And in her evidence to the inquiry, Dame Priti Patel, your Home Secretary at the time, said that she and her department had raised the need with Downing Street to refer to domestic abuse amongst the exemptions.
Yeah, but if it was being dealt with by Hancock, then with responses like a previous one, it wouldn't have gone anywhere near Boris, would it? Even if he'd asked Matt and Chris.
My second topic is about the hidden harms, which is,
what's her
I think,
name?
what you were referring to a moment ago when I stopped you.
Your Honour.
And you say at paragraph 542 of your statement, we'd learnt many lessons from the first lockdown. We considered such things as the hidden harms like increased domestic abuse and child abuse, and we wanted to ensure it was essential that services supporting women and children remained available and steps were taken to tackle these crimes. So that's post-first lockdown.
What about the men that have been affected by the irrational behaviour of females during lockdown?
In fact, during second and third lockdown, the same thing happened.
Because at the moment they're being sexist, right?
The first lockdown,
rates of going on about domestic abuse and completely ignoring men. Yeah.
So what lessons
women on
were
HRT,
learned and implemented
unstable women,
for
mentally unstable
and
women,
third lockdown
bipolar women,
to protect women
yeah,
and girls from
violent
domestic
women,
abuse?
alcoholic women, drug abusing women, adulterous women,
investment in the help
creating
lines, which I think, as I said,
disharmony
almost
in the home.
and the Ask for Annie scheme, where a victim of
always get sided with by the SS, though, don't they?
Go to
every time
and say that she
because
was in February
statistics
2021.
back them up, right? Yeah, well, the statistics, like earlier, are self-perpetuating.
2020,
they can be made to say what you like.
The
and the more you weight it one way with each case and another case and another case, it weights the whole thing that you can never fucking get round it.
I think a useful,
to the point they don't even mention it, and then claim that they are a representative for domestic abuse victims.
new statutory
Fuck
powers
you.
against coercive behaviour, one kind or another, and other measures. We put money
Coercive
into
behaviour. How many women are coercive
right
with
from the beginning of
the use of sex
of the
as
government?
well?
We put more money
Sex as
into
a reward
independent
for doing
sexual violence advisors, independent
doing
domestic violence
what the fuck they want.
advisors.
Oh, they got what they want. They should give it up then, eh?
Across Whitehall.
Yeah.
So people you could
Pussy
ring up,
power, innit?
or people who would help
Let's
you.
talk about it all, ladies and gentlemen. Not just fucking one side of it, yeah?
Appalling
Is dodgy get shout out to all the fucking single fathers out there bringing up children, all the single fathers that are domestic abuse victims, and all the single fucking men that have fucking been victims of fucking female persecution in one form or
which is the
another.
inability of the criminal justice
Violent
system
acts you've put
to
up
deal with.
Let's talk
crimes
about
of rape,
them.
domestic violence,
Where's the
sexual violence
representative for
of other
those
crimes,
people?
and to get enough prosecution. So the government as a whole was working a great deal on this issue, and specifically trying to address the needs of women in lockdown.
The domestic abuse bill received royal assent in April 2021 and started to come into force in July 2021.
Correct.
So that doesn't help us with the...
But you asked me what we were doing,
and it's
in respect to the
grossly
second and third
sexist.
lockdowns.
Well,
I'm
Did
saying
you not
it's
hear that part?
grossly sexist.
as I said, we put money into helplines almost immediately.
Oh wow, helplines run by who? Sunak's fucking firm.
To come forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my lady.
Thank you, Miss Davis.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Jacobs, are you hiding? Where is he?
No, I'm up here, love. I'm up here, darling. I'm up here. It's all right.
He's
We're
usually
cool.
over there, so...
Hello,
Yes,
that's
Mr.
it.
Jacobs.
That's it. Go. That's
Mr. Johnson, I ask questions on behalf of the Trades Union Congress. Okay.
Oh, God.
My first topic for you is on the approach that you engendered in your government as to consultation with key partners such as unions. And I'm going to ask you about a meeting in July 2021. You will recall, I'm sure, that at that time there was discussion about return to workplaces, and the unions that I act for were calling for various measures to advance
various
workplace
measures.
safety. If we have on screen 273901 and page 478,
Didn't know what you wanted
a
then.
note from Sir Patrick of a meeting on the 2nd of July 2021. And towards the middle of that entry, you'll see some quotations attributed to you, Mr. Johnson. Are we going to encourage people to wear masks? Are we going to continue this bollocks, he says, wants everyone back at work. Quote, we can't have the bollocks of consulting with employees and trade unions. They need to all come back to work. All the malingering work-shy people, says how much of civil service is back. Mr. Johnson, was it wrong for you as the Prime Minister
or not? It just been straight,
to
no?
set such a dismissive approach towards consultation with unions?
I don't believe that.
Unions ain't going to be argumentative. The fucking doers are fucking well told in a fucking national emergency. For fuck's sake, argumentative, antagonist fucks. No, you can't have another fucking ham roll machine, yeah? Yeah, there's a Muslim out the back who don't like fucking ham rolls. You're going to have to fucking argue it out of him. See you later. I won't be long.
Of continuing with lockdowns. And
Mr. Johnson,
and I was very keen to get people back if we possibly could.
I understand you're keen for people to work.
If you look at
no, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I'm going to put my question again. I'm asking you specifically about the approach you engendered in your government towards consultation with unions. A Prime Minister who says we can't have the bollocks of consulting with employees and trade unions.
You engendered.
Setting a dismissive approach. Surely you agree with that, Mr. Johnson?
Well, you're a pleb. Go and have a shave, chubby chin, fuckwit. Been eating too many kebabs, drinking fucking funny ale from fucking rare bottles, right? Twazzer.
We've vaccinated a huge proportion of the population. I think by July, well over 50%.
Is this the sixth antagonistic
any other European country?
Fucking add on it, eh?
I'm determined
Good on you,
to
Boris. Yeah?
get people back to work if I possibly can. I think that by the superhuman exertions of the vaccine rollout program, we've put ourselves in a very good position to stage a strong bounce back from COVID. It is vital that we take advantage of the sacrifices that we've made, both in lockdowns and in rolling out the vaccines. I want to
Mr. Johnson,
see people
do any of those matters sensibly mean that you don't consult openly with key partners such as trade unions?
Well, I don't. I'm nothing against
Depends,
consultation. What I don't want
give me a ring or what?
to see.
Instead of fucking sending me an email asking for consultation, why don't you send an email about what the fucking problem is? If you don't like the answer, that's tough shit. Yeah, we're the government, you're the fucking twat. Fucking get on with it.
We've been able
What's
to
the
make
fucking matter?
in the epidemic, in the pandemic. The vaccination program
It's a thing,
had
people don't
radically
like
changed
authority.
our
Fucking
relation
stand up to
the
authority
virus.
instead of just
And
saying, oh, right, I'll do that then.
My worry was, to be absolutely frank with you, that people were going to be slow to acknowledge that, and that there was going to be an inertia and a desire to stay with the working from home pattern, which was not, in my view, necessarily going to be beneficial for a strong economic recovery, which would benefit trades union members and their families.
If we move, Mr. Johnson, from the slightly more general to the more specific, an issue on which you may recall a similar difference of view between unions, education unions in particular, and government, was on the issue of masks in schools. And in the summer of 2020, if you recall, education unions were generally advocating guidance requiring masks in schools. Government policy was permissive guidance in communal areas, and Scotland and the World Health Organization took a different approach. If we have on screen 283-369 and page 41,
coming up to our four,
we'll see a text message exchange between you and Dominic Cummings and Lee Kane, and at the very bottom we see 25th of August a message, a WhatsApp from you. You say, I'm on a train trying to make sense of our totally fucked up face mask policy.
Go on,
and then
Boris.
if we just hold that in our minds, Mr. Johnson, in terms of your assessment of the face mask policy.
That is the opinions people had at the time about certain things when they heard what you were supposed to be doing. It's like saying, oh no, we've got to all wear fucking Veruca socks for the next fucking 3 weeks.
Some messages from the
everybody's like, what? What? We've got to do that?
Lee Kane again, Mr. Cummings again,
How's
and
that? And then we started questioning everything, didn't we?
Case.
He's got to get his head out of my square. There you go.
Mr. Cummings asks, in language with which we've become familiar, what's the true reason for the U-turn on masks? We just slow catching up. WHO and Scotland bounce. Gavin fucked up. PM dithering ? And then Simon Case, your soon-to-be cabinet secretary, offers an explanation. And point 5 is weeks ago we recommended to PM that we create permissive guidance around masks because we could foresee it was going to be a drama in September. Gavin discussed it at a COVID committee meeting. Because at that stage it was unions pressing for masks, no science backup. Gavin was in no surrender mode.
That's what I meant earlier instead of Cummings. Cummings was the advisor when he was...
PM gave him full support in this approach.
Gavin I was talking about.
And then in his conclusions, his third conclusion is, at every turn, PM backs bullshit no surrender ideas from Hancock, Williamson, Shapps, and then totally
hanging off the fan, mate. He's hanging off the fan.
Mr. Johnson, when it comes to consultation with, working with unions, do we see here the proof in the pudding? In that we have
pudding was it, mate? Don't start getting racist again, you ageist bugger.
Arrived at further to being pointlessly oppositional with unions.
No,
the polite show here.
The reality is that the advice on masks, as the inquiry knows very well, the position on masks changed.
Made me giggle.
The advice initially from Chris and particularly from Patrick was that masks were of were thought to be
Sorry,
limited
Boris. Do you want to repeat yourself?
They might be thought to be of some symbolic benefit. That changed as the scientists thought that.
Chris came in the room and said something else.
It was a powerful signal to.
He was taller than me, and his eyes were further apart.
To wear a mask that you were taking.
You ever seen him in a mask?
You felt that the virus was still something.
Yeah, Chris wore one, so everybody else thought they should. And then he had a package, so he handed them out.
There was more evidence about droplet spray and so on, and the potential of masks to interrupt transmission.
There's Hancock, snoggy
what
girls.
You're seeing there in that exchange is the.
Who was washing the door handles in number 10, eh?
Result of
Boris, wash his hands
a
up.
change
That's a
in.
Boris, you wash your mitts, mate. Do you? Do you use soap? Would you just? Are you one of those like? I'll just let the water hit them like a token gesture of.
Mr. Johnson,
I'll
is what
just
we're
wash
seeing here in
3
fact
fingers
quite
that have
simply
touched my penis, like,
in that you describe,
and then walk out and shake him all over.
A wrong-headed mask.
He's one of them.
There's then an exchange with. Sorry, Mr. Johnson. I mean, if you're going to dispute it, I will repeat it. Your phrase was totally.
He's a fucking arsehole.
Running out of time.
He's an arsehole again. You see how court works everywhere.
The adjective I use, which I won't repeat, was intended to convey my sense that a mask policy which had been in position 1 was going to have to change because
that's what they are. All of those people that come up asking questions, fucking
the value of masks, and that was the reality. It was going to be politically difficult to execute, but we were going to have to do it.
Mr. Johnson, I'll try and deal with my final and different topic very quickly. You've
take your
described
fucking time, mate. I don't give a shit. You're fucking wrong here, you patronising
right to say
fun.
that self-isolation
Is that a fucking cardigan he's got on?
Hardest.
Oh no.
And was it understood by you that financial support for self-isolation was one way of mitigating the unequal impacts of the pandemic?
Yes, and well, that's why we had not just the £500 self-isolation payment, but also we increased universal credit by £1,000, working family tax credit by £1,000, and gave councils a very large budget to deal with those who are most in need of help.
Finally, if that's the case, Mr. Johnson, why was it not until the end of September before that payment to which you refer was introduced?
Because of the entire previous day's conversation.
I was anxious. Spent a huge amount supporting the country already through the pandemic. I was anxious about some of the distorting effects of payments to isolate. We discussed the punitive approach, but eventually I thought, well, we better go with some more support as well, and we did.
My lady, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Now, Mr. Stanton is hiding in that corner. I can see him. Mr. Johnson, he chose to sit over there or was put over there, so don't worry. He's used to seeing her back because we need you to face towards the microphone, Mr. Johnson. Sorry.
I will.
So if you address your answers to me, then.
Yes. Thank you, my lady. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. I'd like to ask you a question on behalf of the British Medical Association about the removal of legal limits on social contact during the summer of 2021,
Go on, then.
which has been described as Freedom Day.
Freedom Day. Should we try and make ourselves look like the picture? But
Professor Philip Bamfield, the current chair of the BMA, raises concerns about the government's framing of the removal of restrictions in the context of freedom, which sent the wrong message that the threat of the virus had been fully contained. And in Sajid Javid's witness statement, he states that by late autumn and early winter of 2021, many people felt that the pandemic was over, only for protective measures to be needed once again on the 8th of December 2021 in response to the emergence of the Omicron variant, which you've discussed earlier with Mr. Keith. Mr. Johnson, the question is, to what extent do you think that this mistaken belief that the pandemic was over was influenced by government messaging which framed the removal of public health protections as freedom?
Well, I accept people are going to quarrel with some of the language that we chose, and I have a massive respect for the BMA, but I think if you look at the curve of the pandemic and where we are and where we were then in that period of July 2021, what was to go on, the subsequent movement of the epicurve. I think it wasn't an irrational choice of expression. We had been able to get a huge amount of resistance into the arms of the British public.
But there was no fruit in the bowl.
I think by that stage,
funny as fuck,
vaccinated all the elderly and vulnerable. It was an amazing achievement, and I didn't think it was an inappropriate way to talk about it. And as I said in my answer to the gentleman from the TUC, I was concerned that we were going to remain too cautious for too long. I think we needed to understand that we'd achieved a great deal, and that if it wasn't quite the end, it was at least the beginning of the end.
What differently would you have done
quickly in follow
out there, members of the public? What would you have done differently,
the slogan
given that you were given the advice that he was by the people he was when he was?
But once it had taken hold in public consciousness, do you think more should have been done to counter that belief, having regard to the need for a precautionary approach?
You should have a precautionary approach.
Honestly, no.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, my lady.
Oh, sorry, Mum.
Mr. Keith, that complete. Mr. Alban, no questions that you wish to add? No. That completes the evidence for today. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Johnson. I know how difficult it must be to have 2 days giving evidence.
No, I'm rather sad that it's over because I wanted to. Please.
No, I was.
I may not see you again.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say one thing, which is that I do think all the testimony and the evidence is incredibly valuable. But I do hope that at the end of all this, is one of the few things in particular that I hope that the inquiry will be able to think about, and not just the governmental stuff that we've discussed exhaustively in this module.
Improvement.
But I do think that when you come to, I think the issues of health and social care are absolutely critical. And the government that I led was embarked on a big program to try and bring them together. I think the fact that we had those delayed discharge patients was very, very difficult in the NHS. I hope that this inquiry will give a kick to the powers that be to make sure that we really address that.
Don't worry, we have specific modules both on health and on social care.
And as a final point, I absolutely promise you, I do think that, I know it's outside your scope, but I do think that the British public and future governments will need to be elucidated about exactly how this thing originated. And I think even if you can't, and I don't think
get your shit in a sock, lads and lasses.
Yourselves,
very clever people there. You know who you are.
Some sort of prod.
Sort it out.
Do
a bit of role play.
To get the answer
to
the real origins
play
of COVID,
with it.
I think is going to be very, very important.
Mr. Johnson, you set my terms of reference, so I'm afraid I can't go.
All I'm asking you to do is encourage others.
Right, thank you very much. 10:30 on Monday.
10:30 on Monday, everybody. You heard the lady. Yeah, bow up and bow and all that business. There we go. That one's done. Hey? There we go, everybody. Live and direct from the UK. That was day 2, part 4 of Boris Johnson facing questions at the COVID inquiry. What do you think? How have you been affected? Let me know in the comments now, and when it closes, you can still watch it back. Refer to it if you need to. Raise questions. Write notes. Yeah. Write to your MP. Yeah, they're all going to be hot on it. Yeah, but they need to have some kind of fucking structure about how they're going to deal with it. Yeah? Not just what the result is, but how to deal with creating the result. Mm-hmm. And there's only one way you can do that, and that's by talking and communicating. When ladies, what was her name? The lady that wrote the email to Hancock, and Hancock replied abruptly like he was in the pub halfway down a pint. Yeah? That's the sort of performance we need from people, but not from him. She was doing a good job by the sounds of it. She was asking about effects of children, raising a good concern about the well-being of the people of this country. And he fobbed her off like he was a self-important fuck. Right? How do people live with what's been left? I don't know. I hope the peace is with you, whatever you've been through, whatever you're going through now. And I hope you find peace in whatever you decide to do with the rest of your future. Yeah? Part of that future might be joining me again, Dodgy Git, on the Dodgy Git show. It'd be 117 by then. Yeah, 117. I'll have to figure out what we're going to talk about, won't I, eh? Come up with some new discussion and topics. Yeah, new discussion topics and things as well. I need to know about my plants, yeah? Some of my plants are alright, but others ain't doing too good, and I don't know what's wrong with them. So we might go into a bit of horticulture for a while. But saying that, we might talk about pornography or JCBs. We might talk about paintings, hi-fi stereos, or dolphins in the sea. Might talk about volcanoes. Yeah, internal combustion engines. We do that quite a lot. Yeah, I like talking about cars. Yeah, talk about loads of things like sewing. Yeah, fucking like talking about fucking things. You know, skills. Yeah, skills we should be teaching our children. And one of them is to communicate. One of them is to talk and be open and free about the discussions that's things on their mind. Yeah, whatever's on anybody's mind. Like the lady said, she was trying to restrict some speech, and I fucking kicked off, didn't I? Yeah, don't like that. Somebody wants to say fuck, just fucking say it. It's more offensive to me that you hold it back. Yeah? Things like that, anyway. Sort of. Do you know what I mean? I hope so. I hope you've I hope you get the gist of the Dodgy Git show. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. Yeah, we do our best to fucking host some kind of fucking goings on. We've done a fucking huge fucking 2-day marathon. Yeah, 2-day marathon, 8-show edition of fucking Boris. See, it's all there for you to go and see. Please do. Yeah, please go and look at the other 7 videos on top of this one. Today's previous 3 parts. Yeah, we had 2 parts in the morning, 1 after dinner. And this late afternoon section, we're just finishing up now. Got 4 shows from yesterday and completely different topics and controversial chat in my previous videos, live stream shows, videos and shorts. So don't forget to check out all the tabs on my YouTube main page of my channel. And most importantly, most helpful thing you can do with me at the moment is subscribe. If you can subscribe, that'll help me get up to the 500 subscribers I need. That's the first YouTube thing they give you. I get 500 subscribers. So if it takes me a week or it takes me a year, it takes me freaking 5 years, we should plod on, as and when we feel fit and feel like having a bit of a live stream show to present the world my thoughts and feelings about what's going on in my life and current affairs of the day. Bit of a diary thing, fucking daily journal, isn't it? Dear journal, yeah, shit like that. Anyway, lots of love to all you out there. I'm Dodgy Git. This is a Dodgy Git Show. This has been Dodgy Git Show 116. I'm sharing my love with you, so you've got some love in your heart to share around with the people that you meet. Yeah? Don't forget to say hello to your neighbour. Do your neighbour a favour for nothing, and I'd love to see you again next time. Yeah? I appreciate you spending the time here. Take care. Peace be with you. Peace be with those around you. Share love. See you later.